All right, welcome back to the TCI studio. Gavin and I survived 2 weeks of camp. Weather was actually pretty good. We had a few days that looked like it might rain, but we made it through.
Got all how quick it went by.
We got every session in. It flew by.
Yeah.
Some great players came to Clemson. So we're going to do a series of videos today and kind of walk you through a lot of different things about the camp and some of the top prospects that were there. This first segment, what I want to talk about, and we've put stuff on TCI about this before, past years, but I think it's something we always need to reiterate because I heard it again this year and actually talked to one of the coaches working at camp, and he kind of emphasized it. The Clemson camp is different. Obviously, that was signified by some of the recruits coming all the way across the country to see it, but Dabo knows exactly what he's doing. It's so orchestrated. And Clemson does the 3-day camp. They work with the kids. They don't do the combine. You see a lot of these schools now doing combines and getting the prospects in. And the combine doesn't help an average camper, right? The combine helps the recruits maybe feel good or whatever. But Clemson and Dabo have stuck with their formula of doing a real camp, a 3-day, and it's worked well for them.
Absolutely. You mentioned how well orchestrated and organized it is. We saw that, for example, firsthand the other day. E.J. Williams had just arrived, 4-star receiver target, had just arrived on campus, and he was there standing and watching the receivers. Justin Ross was carrying him around, and it wasn't before long where Jeff Scott pulled another staffer aside that was helping to work the camp, and he said, "Hey, E.J.'s here, go get Dabo." And what do you know, about just moments later, Dabo comes rolling up in his golf cart, comes to greet EJ and gives him a lot of love. And so they just stay in touch, they communicate, and it's so well run. It's a first-class camp, and that was just one example right there of what you mentioned.
Well, just before that, I was actually watching the receivers, and Justin Ross and T. Higgins were helping Jeff with the A group of receivers, and Jeff got word that EJ was there, and he said, "Hey, Justin." Of course, Justin, former teammate of EJ. EJ's here, so Justin leaves, goes and gets him. Next thing you see, Justin, EJ, his family walking in. One of the young children in with the family was all dressed up in Clemson gear, but very orchestrated for the recruits. But I walked by and heard some of the parents talking about it, and they really, if you're a linebacker, you're going to get to work with Brent Venables. If you're a receiver, you're going to get to work with Jeff Scott. They do all these rotation drills, so you get a chance to work with that position coach. And oh, by the way, they do the same thing at the youth camp. So that formula has worked really well. They're trying to teach the kids. They get the kids there, and they split them up into groups. So, of course, the position coach works more with the A group. Right. So they're going to get to see them and learn and decide whether to give them an offer, and we're going to get more into that, but they really do try to provide a good camp setting. And I've heard, from the first year when I took my son there, which was before any of the media even started covering it, I heard things about just how different it is, from parents coming from all over saying, "Oh, you get South Carolina people bringing their kids to the Clemson camp because it's a better camp."
I actually, at the camp this past couple of weeks, I spoke with one coach who brought a group of kids from Florida to the camp, and he told me, not all these guys are going to be, Division I Power 5 prospects, but this is a quote, once in a lifetime opportunity for these kids to get coached by, like you said, a Brent Venables, Jeff Scott. I mean, even if this might be the only chance to ever get coached by a college coach like that, because they don't have a future at the next level. So he called it a once in a life opportunity for those guys, and just the amount of attention to detail the coaches pay at these camps. They've got their cards written out with all the drills they want to do, and the periods, they make them work, and they just really, truly care about
they give the same attention to the 5-star as they do the kid that's never maybe third-team high school player.
Absolutely. They show equality to everybody, and it's just they truly care about making these kids better. And these kids, all of them that I've talked to afterward, they said, "Hey, I learned a lot of things that I can take back and help bring to my high school team when I get back, things that I learned here that's going to make me better and maybe make my team better too."
When I first went to the camp with my son years ago, and I won't tell you how many years because that'll show you how old we are, or how old I am. One of the things that also impressed me as a parent is Dabo, obviously we all know about his faith, and Tommy had a similar faith, and just, the things that they tell the kids at the end of the camps and before camps, and we don't get to see that anymore with the coverage they give the media, but I got to see it when my kid was here. Dabo's telling the kids things as a parent you would want your kids to hear. You're having people, star Clemson players telling those campers the same things. And, as you know, mom and dad, kids don't always listen to you, but, they may, Dabo and some of these idols they've got, they may listen a little more to them. So that's another thing I think that brings a lot of the parents back.
I'm glad you pointed that out, because Dabo, he has what he calls his words of wisdom that he gives to the recruits, what you mentioned at the end of each camp session. And I've had more than one recruit tell me that has left a great impression on them, and that they just walk away from that feeling like they've not only learned a lot about football, but also about life and how they should be as a person and their character, and just how keeping your grades up off the field is just as important as what you do on the field, etc. I've had a bunch of recruits tell me that's one of the biggest things they've taken away from the camp.
Coach Brad Scott does a great job with the camp. He's the one that handles all the one-day guys, which, a lot of those guys coming in are your prospects that won't come for the 3 days, but they'll come in for a day. He does a great job of handling getting them in there and getting them over to the right coaches and the right places, and making sure the coaches know, hey, this list of top prospects is here and these guys have shown up. A lot of guys, Coach Dooley helps run the camp now. A lot of guys do it, but it's just so orchestrated. They're so good at it. And it wears the coaches out. One of the coaches told me, don't be in the parking lot at 12:30 on Thursday, because we're all getting out of town. So, we were glad that camp was over. Those coaches were even more glad that camp was over. This is one of the few times a year where they can go off and take some vacation.
Yeah, it's good for them. They much needed, well-deserved break. And another thing that makes Clemson's camp special is the amount of player involvement there is. We can't tell you how many current players. That's the rules change where now they can work the camps, and Clemson's players, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Ross, T. Higgins, where they were working with the quarterbacks and receivers. There's not a better trio in the country to learn from than those guys, and the list goes on and on and on. And not only are they getting these players that come to the camp getting first-class coaching from the coaches, but also from players who have been through it and know a lot about the game.
Well, that rule change at a great time for Clemson. Changed just a few years ago, where they could have the current players work the camp. They get paid to work the camp. Significant amount of money. So everybody that wants to pay, players get paid. They get paid to work the camp. And the difference now with Clemson is a lot of those guys are, because of the power of the Paul, those guys are known nationwide, because Clemson's in the playoff every year and winning national championships. So those guys are all known. Everybody in the country knows who T. Higgins is and Trevor Lawrence is and Travis is. If you're a running back, you're out there getting to work with Travis. I mean, how cool is that?
Yeah, I think a lot of the kids actually are starstruck when they first start working with these guys, because they see them back in January, making huge plays on a championship stage, California. And the next thing you know, they're right there with them on Clemson's practice fields, working with the best in the country. So it's an amazing opportunity for these guys, for these kids.
All right, we just wanted to highlight some of the reasons Clemson's got one of the best camp in the country, maybe the best in the country. I don't know. I haven't been to others, so it's hard to say that, but I know they've got one that I hear from parents, coaches, other folks, one of the best. Wanted to talk about that. It's the first part of our recruiting camp series here. We got a lot more that we're going to discuss, so stay tuned to TCI for the most complete coverage of Clemson football and Clemson recruiting.